We'll move straight on to item 26, and Councillor Goff, I'll get you to introduce this because it came up at the Development Forum.
Yeah, it did come up in the Development Forum. I trust you've all read it really anyway, so you can take it as read. There's nothing more that I can really say. We're well versed on how it came up and the process around it, so I'm happy to answer any questions, but otherwise I've got a couple of recommendations which I'll move, but otherwise I just take it as read. Yeah,
but I think that perhaps you should indicate what you're going to move, because you're going to move, it's not the staff recommendation, it's the...
Yeah, following on actually from, and I wasn't sure what the Central Cities Business Association's view would be on that. I could have taken a punt, but coincidentally enough, I'm moving the staff recommendation option 2, that staff consult on recommencing the Central City 1 hour free parking from 1 July 2018, once there's a full analysis and consultation taking place with key stakeholders, and the trial is initiated. That the trial initiative is reinstated, so as in that it continues as is through to the end of that consultation period. And the second part to it, which is an addition, is just to form a working party, which consists of myself, Pauline Cotter as Chair of the Infrastructure and Environment Committee, and Dion Swiggs as the local ward councillor, just to work with staff to do some of that grunt work in parallel with the consultation.
Yep. Pauline?
Yeah. Could I ask a question of staff? If we just concentrated on Litchfield Street alone, car park, and removed the other ones that we currently have trial, so we just maintained the 1 hour free in Litchfield, do you have an idea what that cost and loss revenue would be? Be able to...
Could I just, is that for the next 3 months up until the end of this financial year? Right.
Yes. Sorry, yeah. I know it's a little bit hard to actually quantify it to an exact figure, but
can we just try and work that out whilst
yep. Okay, Dion, then Yanni.
I was wanting to put another addition into the recommendation, was to actually get DCL to do a financial analysis over this, because even with Brendan's the CCBA's submission that they just did, and me also looking at some of these numbers, it doesn't fully make sense, and I think they'll be in a very good position to actually do an independent financial analysis on the lost opportunity cost versus the income revenue that we're getting, because I mean you've got council's revenue by approximately $400,000 a year might be lost if we continued it for after the next financial year, but it feels like that's just been kind of plucked from an approximation, but I actually want to get some good financial analysis on it.
I don't think that's... Yeah, I don't
think so, Barry.
Can we just take some advice on that as well, because it just seems to me that, I mean, the point that Brendan made right at the very start is that it's very hard to know the difference it's made when it applied from the day it opened. You know, so there's nothing to compare it with.
Yeah, but what we're seeing in this is that if, you know, all the financial stuff that we're getting, I mean, a lot of people are saying it's costing the council a lot of money to give this 1 hour free away. But actually, and then they're saying if it increases, you know, in 0.7.9 it says if the patronage increases, it's going to cost the council more. But actually, we're not getting the full picture of that, because if we got more, what would be the likelihood of actually that costing if we didn't have more, based on if we didn't offer the free 1 hour?
You're saying 100% of people don't stay for 59 minutes.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, I think there's a good financial analysis that can be done to give us a better information about making the decision.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I don't think that you need to use another agency to provide that information. I think our staff can do that. But
I'd like it independent, that's all.
Well, we'll just we'll take some further advice on that. But so you're moving an amendment that...
No, it would just be an addition into
Carol
that.
just wants to say that.
Perhaps if I could just say that in the paper it does actually set out the financial implications of the options. So it talks about recommencing the trial is 400k per annum is the impact, and if we kept it going until June 18, it's about 100k impact. So the financial implications of the options are set out in the paper.
Yeah, but that's all of them. That's the whole lot.
Oh,
That's
you
not my
meaning just for
question.
Litchfield? We can.
It's
Yeah, we can
foregone
cut.
revenue,
Yeah.
and it assumes that every single person will come if we take the 1 hour off.
And that's
And
what I'm
you
trying to get the
can't-
point
no,
across.
but you can't answer that question. It's not answerable because you don't know what the impact will be because we started charging from the day it opened. This was always an issue around this, but let's take some further advice on it. Yanni.
So, except we don't know it for Litchfield, we absolutely know it for Rolleston, Aldersgate, New Regent, and Worcester Street. And I personally would like an option where, for the art gallery one, which we know has got low occupancy, and the Litchfield one, which we've heard has got low occupancy, that we leave those as an hour free till the 1st of July and do the consultation. But I can't understand, and I've put this question through, I know it was quite late, is it'd be really good to understand what was happening at those on-grade ones, which we're currently paying a lease to a private landowner. So there's actually a really huge cost, and on the information we had last time showed that they already had like 90% plus occupancy. So we've actually given, that is very real measurable money that we've given away. And it would be really good just to get a little bit of advice, if we could please, on the cost of those ones as separate to Litchfield and the art gallery, and how, if some of us wanted an option just to extend it for the art gallery in Litchfield, we could do that.
Once every 26,000 years, Yanni and I agree completely. And I actually think that there's quite a clear line in the sand that, that buildings and at-grade parking are quite distinctly different. And to be perfectly honest, we want people in car park buildings, and we don't want to really incentivise dusty gravel pits.
Yep.
So I would be very comfortable just to say in our council car park buildings, brackets, art gallery and Litchfield car park.
Yep.
So
Madam
totally
Chair,
agree with you, Yanni.
just to answer the earlier question of Councillor Cotter, we think it would cost approximately $50,000 to $60,000 for the hour-free parking to be maintained in those 2 car parking buildings from now up until the end of the financial year. But that's based on an extrapolation of those matters we just discussed.
Okay, but if we adopt that the council adopt option 2 for the art gallery and the Litchfield Street car park building, namely that staff consult on recommencing. Well, hang on, why don't we don't need to have adopt option 2 at all. You just put that staff consult on recommencing the Central City 1 hour free parking from 1 July 2018, and that the trial initiative is restarted and finishes on 30 June 2018 for the art gallery and the Litchfield Street car park.
Yep.
Yeah, it's slightly confusing, the wording there. What it fundamentally means is that it continues as is until the end of the financial year.
I guess I don't.
Just the 2
However,
car park.
It's just the 2 car
Yeah,
parks.
yeah.
But the
Our
consultation.
slight addition is that we only retain it at art gallery and Litchfield, which is, and my line in the sand that I think is very easy and simple for public and everything, is that it's our car park buildings.
Yeah.
But the issue is in terms of what are we consulting on?
Yes,
So I don't want us to go and consult for the on-grade.
and I just think that we should put that line in the sand in the resolution. So request staff consult on it's consult on recommencing the Central City 1 hour free parking. But we want to make it clear that the consultation is on the art gallery and the Litchfield Street car parks.
And we just cut the at grade.
So it's car park buildings we're talking about, not,
Understood.
yeah.
Stuff. You know, one of the questions that's come up is just around the whole promotion and the road. I mean, to be fair, the roadworks have been appalling through that whole area around Litchfield Street. It is very hard to find out how to access it. We did have a big campaign that we were going to do around that. So I was just interested if we could get some comment on how the success of the campaign that we've already run was, and what the need is going forward, particularly around the issue of roadworks. And just related to that, the other question similar to it is, we seem to be advertising, or there seems to be private car parking buildings that have blue P signs that give an impression that they're council buildings, on Montreal Street, for example. And so what sort of coordinated approach are we taking around our own council public ones versus promoting the private ones?
I think for the blue parking signs, to try and answer your second question first, that's simply because they offer public parking, so it's not simply for the tenants of those buildings that they're part of. It's for, so one can come park in there at any time. So we're trying to get some consistency across the central city in terms of wayfinding and how people can identify and recognise car parking buildings. So while it might not be a council facility, people can still use that facility for public car parking. In terms of the first question that you had of us, which was around the marketing campaign, there was a pretty intensive marketing campaign across the central city. I can't speak in any detail around that. It was probably slightly before I became involved. I'm wondering whether Aaron was involved in it. It was in the time leading up to Christmas. My understanding that it was pretty successful in getting the message out there, but Aaron, would you like to?
Yeah, look, we had really great feedback from people that had seen the marketing campaign. The communications team advised us that they'd had high hits on some of the content that's online, etc. I think it was entangled with the lead up to Christmas though, and so very, very hard to measure because there were people coming in anyway. I still get people who are telling me that they haven't heard of Litchfield Car Park and don't know where it is. So I think marketing for us is an ongoing requirement. We have to keep doing it until people actually know about the building and we're confident that that it's being used by the people who could use it.
So the roadworks are going to finish sometime hopefully this century around Durham Street. I think we've just had a notice of a new way in which people go counter flow on that intersection. So are we looking at putting any additional signage up to really instruct people how to get to Litchfield?
Well, the wayfinding signage that's going up, it's actually going in at the moment, I think, Stephen, isn't it? It has parking signage that leads you to Litchfield and some of the other car park buildings as well. So if you're coming down Tuam, you'll know that you need to turn left to go, counter northwards up Durham Street to get around into Litchfield. So there's good signage there to lead people in.
Right.
And I think that actually even starts right out at the at Morehouse Ave, at the edge of the 4Ms.
Okay, thanks.
Just change the wording here. So
good.
We start with continue the trial initiative for the art gallery and Litchfield Street car park buildings to finish on 30th of June 2018. Request staff consult on recommencing the central city 1 hour free parking in the car park buildings from 1 July 2018 and then form a working party. And that the report be presented before the adoption of the LTP, and that way you can get them to LTP process.
Speak to it. Thanks. I linked the report that we have in front of us to my Jamie Goff Council Facebook page and asked for the public comment around what we should do. I had 74 comments on it, all of which backed the 1 hour free. 100% said that we should continue with first hour free parking in the central city. And I'll quickly read you some of those comments just to give you a flavour. Christine said, my view is that extending the council free parking initiative means the council will be creating more opportunity for the public to support central city businesses who have invested in our city and future of Christchurch. George says, 100% keep. I'm struggling to understand how this is even a point to discuss until such a time that the CBD is fully populated. Only the malls will benefit if you don't. Tanya says, I wouldn't go into the city to shop without the free hour. Vivian says, keep the first hour free. If you want to encourage people back, this is the one way council could redeem themselves from some of the ridiculous things they have implemented thus far. Christine says, keep it. For me, it makes the difference between going to town or not. And finally, Michael says, parking is abhorrent at best, not to mention the horrendous fees pirate private operators charge. At least the first hour free offers some incentive to return to the CBD and not the malls. So I think this confirms what we already know. The press ran their own poll a while back with 95% of respondents saying that they supported the free parking initiative. What we don't know is what's the cost of not doing it, what's the opportunity cost. And I can do a quick back of the envelope analysis, but it's far from scientific. If you take the report, which has already been questioned, but those figures there, 60% occupancy stated in the report, assume a conservative park turnover rate of 3 per day, say each shopper stays for an hour and a half, paying for only 30 minutes of that, assume 30% choose Lichfield because of the first hour free hook. Per annum, that's well in excess of over $200,000 in lost revenue from people no longer supporting the central city due to the promotion ending that we no longer get. So we do need that sort of detailed analysis, and I'm hopeful that throughout the consultation period that's exactly what we're going to get. Talking to those key stakeholders and having a breakdown on the likes of the opportunity cost and the rest, and that's what our staff are good at and that's what they can provide for us. We'll get that by the end of the financial year when the proposed consultation is complete. So I'm advocating for option 2, which is to keep it simple, keep it as is in the council car park buildings until then, because the worst possible thing that we could do, in my view, is to chop and change what we're doing. We will have talked to all the stakeholders by then, we'll have all the facts, all the figures, all the analysis to allow us to make an informed decision by LTP. But it would be absolutely nonsensical, in my opinion, to start it, stop it, then start it again, or start it, stop it, then do something different once the consultation is complete. So keeping it as it is in our buildings, in my view, is logical because it ensures that we don't confuse the message, we don't confuse residents, we don't undermine both the central city nor our own leadership in the process. So my message with this, keep it simple, don't confuse the messaging, and I think this has been a real win for us, and I think it would be sad if we went backwards on that. The central city needs this. We know what the tenancy and vacancy rates are like, and we know that we're still a long way off before the central city is anywhere near there. And intrinsically, the success of Christchurch's rebuild hangs so largely on the success of the central city. So I think we need to do everything that we possibly can, and it's actually a really cost-effective win. Continue it for the few months until we have that robust analysis and that we've completed the consultation. So there's a set of 3 pragmatic recommendations, in my opinion, and I hope that you support it.
Thank you. Phil?
Look, I'll support it too. I am aware, and councillors will be too, that when with the first report, we saw that the incentives as being a temporary thing, and clearly this is taking longer, and this is all part of a transition period. But I'm just wondering, in fact, if the working party might also consider this, and make sure that you do, please, as part of looking at transport in our inner city as a whole. And that's not to break up the different parts like, for example, public transport and cycling and private cars. It's a look at, in fact, how we do get it all working. Like an example would be, if this actually works, it might be that a subsidy for public transport could help our transport system too. So those are features that I think we need to keep in mind, that this part of parking is really an important part of the whole.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Oh, Mike.
I'll be quick. This isn't monopoly. There's no such thing as free parking. And so I think what we really need to also be doing is promoting the car parking that we do have, because there is actually a lot of car parking, and our car parking buildings are actually really cheap when you look outside of the city and look at other places who have car parking buildings that charge a lot more, and actually the price of on street is also a lot more. So while we're obviously going to continue this and do consultation, which is good, I think we really need to be promoting actually our car parking buildings and the price they are, because they're actually not that expensive when you look around, and the fact that now they can be charged per minute actually creates a really good offer for people. So look, I'm looking forward to the consultation to hear what people say, but we keep calling it free parking, and it's not free parking. There is a cost there with the lack of revenue, and it does fall back onto the ratepayer.
Yanni?
Yeah, I'm really glad that we've removed the on-grade ones. You'll recall when we previously discussed that was a concern that was raised. So I wish you'd agreed with me then, Jamie, rather than 26,000 years ago. But, you know, at least we can, I think, remedy it, because I think if you look at the numbers, there's 12,000 people parking at those ones alone. And so I think it's financially prudent thing to do. I think it is really a shame that the roadworks and the legibility to get to Litchfield have just been so appalling for so long as well. And I think you know, that's only going to just really resolve itself in in the next few weeks, which will be good, except we've just heard that there's going to be a whole bunch of construction happening around it as well. I do just concur with Councillor Davidson, around, you know, we need to promote our own buildings. I can't understand why we're spending money promoting private car parking buildings in the central city when we've got our own buildings that are struggling for occupancy. So hopefully in the marketing and the campaign going forward, we can actually think of encouraging people to park at our buildings so we get the revenue rather than go to private buildings. But, you know, I think it is early days. It would be really good to, you know, just go through the consultation, extend it to the middle of the year. The other thing that I think we should still be doing, if we can, is looking at having people being able to make donations if they're parking for an hour free, so that going to some of the good causes, and we still haven't quite mastered that. But I think if you look at some of the work that people like Gapfiller are doing in the city, for example, you know, I think there is still room for us to actually, if people want to give something to some of the good projects that are happening in the city, then maybe we could have a way in which we could capture a little bit of that, especially if we're providing a free service. But, you know, I think this is a smart way forward.
Good, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.